There is some debate about whether or not the continents actually exist. We use them to help classify the regions around the world, and it gives us a little bit better understanding of what's happening. But if you look at them a little bit, they don't actually make any sense. So first of all, let's ask some questions. What makes a continent? Is it size? So if it's size, we need to compare Australia to Asia. Is it contiguous landmass? Well, many people would consider North and South America as separate continents, even though they are one contiguous landmass. So what about tiny little islands by that definition? Where would they fall into that? Well, let's take a look at the AP regions. One of the things you may notice right away is the strange shape of Europe. It seems longer than our usual understanding of it. You'll also notice how convoluted the Americas look. Why so many words? Why is the Caribbean listed twice? Also, Africa is divided into as many regions as Asia is. I have heard many a complaint about this. Okay, so if a contiguous landmass is our definition of continent, why are Europe and Asia separated? The Ural Mountains are a low, small, insignificant mountain range, while the Himalayas are enormous and do not separate India from Asia. Another problem with the Urals is that they end, so the divide follows the Ural River, the Caspian Sea, and then the Caucasus Mountains. So what type of geography works as a divide? The Ural Mountains wouldn't keep out an invading army, so that can't be the reason. Notice the separation of New Guinea. That is a single island divided into two different continents. That divide is political. Maybe the divide is cultural or historical. But this is dubious as well because it doesn't make sense for Asia. China, India, and the Arabian world have distinct histories and cultures that only barely overlap at times. Maybe we divide continents by race, but Africa cannot be divided this way, with Arabs in the north and black Africa in the south. Romans and Greeks used rivers, the Nile in Africa, the Don River, to separate Europe and Asia. Peter the Great actually moved the continental line from the Don to the Ural Mountains in the 1700s in his attempt to westernize Russia. AP sources will often discuss Eurasia as a single landmass. Why does this make sense? Does it make more sense or less sense than separating the landmass? There is also an assumption with these divides that all the peoples within them are the same. This is known as essentialism. But this is Europe, divided up by forms of government. Even the way we look around the world can be affected by where we are within it. This map from Brazil shows a world that looks sideways to us. And there is also a danger of geographic determinism. Where you are is who you are. It is true that geography does affect the people who live in a certain region because of what resources are available to the people living there. Hawaii would have differences geographically and culturally compared to Missouri. Notice on this slide how much space is dedicated to Europe. And look how tiny Great Britain is. Comparing these two maps, we see a map of Europe and we see a map of Africa here. Europe looks like it is full of cities and countries and lots of different things, and Africa looks like there is nothing in it. There are no cities, there are no towns. The problem being the scale, Africa being much larger. And this map of the Western world, we talk about the Western world, but what does that mean? Because the Western world is spread out all over the map. And if you think about it, parts of the Middle East carry on farther west than Europe does.